So they're in there.
Well, hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday to our new game. We are going to be doing something very different with this group of shenanigree type people. By the way, everybody at this game is from our Discord. So, as always, join our Discord. Get a chance to play in our one-shots or host your own game, run your own game. We'll do some introductions here in a moment, but just to give you a quick backdrop in regards to this particular campaign, this is a 5e rule-inspired campaign. In other words, I'm not calling it Dungeons & Dragons specific. We will be using 5e rules. We'll also be using some Mage the Ascension mechanics. We will be doing some Cthulhu mechanics as well. We will also be... in the future, TPKs are always possible or plausible, depending on your term. We will be using some other future rules that are going to be augmented into the 5e mechanic rule set. The main thing that we're showing with this campaign is we are doing a theme. And the theme is an alternate history campaign at the turn of the 20th century, where, and we'll get into this a little bit deeper, because today's I know you're used to us calling this Session 0. We're actually calling this a prelude to our origin story. So this is kind of a mix of Session 0 activity and discussing the origin of the campaign and the idea of what it is to be a character in a themed campaign as opposed to a strictly type of game, right? Whether it's Mage, Werewolf, Masquerade, Cthulhu, D&D, Pathfinder, Starfinder, all those games that are out there. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to share with you how we can take a campaign, apply a theme, use mechanics, and play the game. In other words, the one thing you can come up with endlessly is new themes. Themes are incredibly fun and creative things to do, as long as you have a good framework of rules to help you run it, and the table that you share with your players are in agreement with the intent of the game. I kind of feel like we're at that point now where we can play just about anything we want to play, as long as, we all realize the simple fundamental fact of playing a game together. It's not my table, it's not your table, but it's kind of our table. And I really want to kind of stress that point, because one of the things that you'll see very differently in this campaign is the players are actually going to evolve their characters in the world that they're going to be participating in. There's going to be very little things that are predefined for them other than some basic mechanics and some basic integral points. To give you an idea, we are taking the D&D universe and it's colliding with what we're calling the Terra Firma universe, which is where 1920s Earth is. And this collision through this theme is going to present an entirely new kind of world for these folks to immerse themselves in. And there's going to be a lot of challenging subject matter, so be aware of that. I'm always mindful of it. I will do it tastefully. But obviously, as we move into an alternate history of Terra Firma, well, we'll get into that subject matter shortly. But first, what I'd like to do is go around the table, just kind of quickly introduce our players. And for those of us joining us tonight, and for anybody joining us in the future when you rewatch this, my average campaigns usually last about 2 years. So this could very well be a long-running campaign, or, as I've seen it a million times before, because I've been playing these games for a very long time, is, could last 6 months, could last a day, could last as long as real life suddenly rips someone from my arms and I can't keep them at the table anymore. And it happens. It's not, it's not a perfect world. It's just the world that we live in. So starting from Random Ward, or our player Richard, why don't you give us give us some information about you, and then talk to us about your origin story of Random Ward.
Hello, my name's Richard. I am 31 years old, I think, maybe 32, and I've been playing D&D for a few years now. I've DM'd for two of our fellow players here for the past few years, and I haven't had a lot of opportunities to be a PC, and so I'm pretty excited. The character I've created and that I will embody and be is Random Ward. He is a veteran who's fought in the extended version of World War One. He is a veteran of the Battle of Verdun 2, the second battle at Verdun, which doesn't exist in our reality, but perhaps does in this reality. And now he's an enforcer for in the Prohibition era. He runs booze um, for his livelihood. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks, Richard. Jesse, tell us a little bit about you and is it Caldove?
Yeah.
And
Caldo. Yeah, so I'm Jesse. We actually did a video creating my character a few weeks
we
ago.
did.
Well, starting to create my character, so watch that too.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm Jesse. I've been playing D&D for 20 years, give or take. I've been on a little hiatus. When I stopped playing, I was DMing more than playing, so I'm excited to come back as a player. And my character is Keldove. She can be found in our corporate type office setting during the day, and then at night she does magic tricks and illusion work and performs all sorts of feats on the streets to entertain the masses and for her own semi-devious purposes, which will be unfolded more as the story goes on.
Nice. And Colin, tell us a little bit about your favorite whiskey there, buddy. McCollin.
So I'm Colin. I've been playing D&D just as long as Richard has as well. I think I've had an interest before then, but I think Stranger Things was kind of the catalyst for all of us, at least in our group. But I will be playing McCallan. He is a furbolg, and he is an investigator. He enjoys calling everybody kid, regardless of their age, because he's kind of smug like that. And he is also was formerly a bare knuckle boxer and used that to pay his way through the academy to become a private investigator.
Nice. And the lovely Theresa, as always. And most people don't know this, but Theresa and Colin were actually in two of my Wednesday games. One that did go 2 years, that wrapped up. And then another one that went 2 years where they came in as extras because they had more time on their Wednesdays. And that team could used a couple more players. But Theresa, tell us about Kiki Lee. And yourself first. Tell us about you and then Kiki Lee.
So I'm Teresa. I'm also 31, and I started playing D&D for a few years now, but I still feel like a newbie sometimes because there's just it's so complicated and there's so much to learn. So I always have a lot of fun with it. Kiki Lee, she is an alien not from this galaxy. She's from a planet that has no direct translation into English or any form of vocalization that us humans have. But if you were to translate it, it would roughly be mbop, like the song the Hanson brothers had. And she was sent to Earth from Mbop as someone to study humans because their behavior is very unpredictable and like humans are kind of weird as we're humans ourselves and we think humans are weird. Like there's wars, there's love, there's crazy people, there's you watch the news, you see how crazy people are. So she's basically sent to Earth to study humans, and she has taken the form of an Asian female because in the 1920s, like she just I've studied Earth, and it was like, okay, let's get the most common face, and the most common face on Earth is Asian. So she picked that form, and she uses her race as an excuse. She doesn't know what's going on in the United States. She's like, "Oh, from my country, we don't know that type of thing." So that's her excuse. People buy it because it's the 1920s. They don't really know a lot about Asian people. So yeah, she's just on Earth writing her final report, and yeah, see where
Nice.
her adventure goes.
And I think one of the things we may explore, and obviously we're going to finalize some things tonight, talk about certain things. And one of the things we might explore with Kiki is introducing a new type of magic to see if that'll help not only allow you to create it the way you want it to, but maybe take some of the challenge out of being a newer player when it comes to magic, because magic can be a little bit intimidating, I think, when people are like new to it and trying to adapt to it. I think one of the things we may run with is where you just kind of, build a magic theme that works for you, and then we build it out as you learn it and study it and make it a part of your theme and your role play integration, into this like strange kind of world. I mean, you're essentially coming from, hyperdrive to a world that thinks a Model T with a gem on it that lets it go invisible is somehow state of the art. So you have even a more kind of very diverse understanding of society, of where you come from, versus looking at the way this society is now. So, Enigma, tell us about you and Calimax. And if some of you out there watching, Enigma does run a Tuesday show as well. Tell us about that.
Hello, everyone. I am Enigma. I am the youngest on this group and team now. I am 26. I've been playing D&D for 9 years. No,
Newbies.
8 years.
I know. Me and Jesse.
8 or 9 years.
Me and Jesse.
One of those two.
Me and Jesse can't do enough math to describe our background. That's for sure.
Yeah, my catalyst to D&D was it was a good segue to get away from when I was in the military. It got me out of the mindset of just always being on alert. Which brings me back to Calimax, the steel. Calimax is a steel dragon sealed into a humanoid form. He is now learned over the past 10 years of coming over to Terra how to integrate magic along with medicine, and has made it into an arcane form of his own, including how to implement some of the normal medical tools into magical items, into helping him do his magic. He's also learned the intricacies of mortality in a lot of ways.
And that's actually a really good description for me, because we're going to have a very different understanding of death in this game. It is not going to be at all like what you might think it is from a perspective of most D&D related games. Definitely has some twists and turns in it that should make it quite kind of interesting as well. So, with that, let's quickly finalize our characters, talk about our origin story. So for all of you, well, with the exception of Random Ward, because you're playing a terra firma human, correct? So for you, you watched this world change. It began in 1917 is when it began to change. So for you, your origin story is more about the sudden understanding of new life forms coming into existence, these new sentient beings and creatures that you'd never heard of. By the end of your first year of your tour of duty and during the Battle of Second Verdun, you became pals with a half Ogren kind of individual. And this particular individual is the one that kind of schooled you on the understanding of the world that he came from. The idea of orcs, elves, goblins, half races, full races. The idea of magic, warfare, and the concepts that his world was made up of. And this began your journey of understanding that 10-year slide of being in the war, eventually being, what they call it, Enigma, when you get honorably discharged from the military, serving your 5 years. So you will have served in the military from 1915 to 1920, participating in active combat and military activity for 4 years, for the most part. You've also kind of witnessed the evolution of these flying contraptions called planes. More importantly, you began to see during your time period of discharge when you left, planes that were dropping glowing orbs that would cause explosions, and creatures participating in ways that seemed very unfamiliar to you, till you continue to have these conversations with your friend from the other side. At first, the numbers are small, but by the time you take your position and you decide that being in the underworld is the more lucrative of choices with your skill set, death and dealing death is something that you did for 5 years, so why not make money at it from your position? The population of these newcomers has flourished and not done so well in some places. For you, you currently reside in a small town in New Mexico, near the border, and your primary function is both gun running, drug running, and illegal booze. It does turn out the one thing that's still in full effect in 1927, in fact, it happened quite early because of political and other means of influence. Prohibition is now worldwide. Prohibition is now something that the entire world has agreed to, mostly kicked off by the idea of these new creatures, these new visitors, and these new residents coming into existence. It's never truly explained how or why they've come into existence. It just seemed to kind of happen. There's rumor, myth, and lore behind their existence and where they came from. But for you, Random, the criminal world, the underworld that you exist in, the gangsters, the mafioso, has flourished under these new conditions. As a worldwide prohibition on many different things has created a massive black market for illicit drug and alcohol requirements. For you, this has actually made you slightly richer than most. Although a bit of a heavy-handed enforcer, you've shown intrigue and the ability to handle yourself out in the field. This also brings us to a clarification of currency. One of the things that has happened is that the value of gold has plummeted. Not only has this wealth come over with our new residents from the alternate reality and the alternate plane of existence, they've brought their wealth with them, causing all precious gems and precious metals to plummet in value. The initial year caused a significant depression. It recovered a year later, but things have changed. The gold standard is now called the faith standard, as the United States of America has essentially become a Christian nation. Due to its fear and inherent concern about where these new creatures come from, the idea of magics and other things have become, well, persona non grata. It's not that you're arrested on sight for doing magics, but you are usually actively condemned, both socially and politically, if you do this. Some population centers have newcomers, some do not. But this has created the idea of faith in government, the idea that the strength of a government, the strength of its will, determines its value. And a U.S. dollar or a U.S. currency will be our main currency from a perspective of dealing with wealth and valuation of what we're going to be handling in this campaign. And feel free to stop and ask me questions at any point, because at this point, we're kind of going over Random's origin to help him get him through his 10-year slide and up to this point. This is general knowledge that Random has. This is the understanding of the world as Random sees it. In the Southwest, very sparsely populated, it has not enjoyed the benefits of both the Northeast and the Southern states that have flourished incredibly either under the fear of the newcomers or, like in the Northeast, the adaptation of the newcomers. Oddly enough, it's created a new schism. A schism that we once saw in 1855, a schism of the North versus the South. And this schism has caused both the North and the South to even forget about the West and the Southwest, where it has truly become the wild frontier yet again. Only this time our new visitors, our new residents kind of play in to this narrative. Now, this is all common knowledge that all of you can equally share, but this is the place that has begun to form Random's opinions and understanding of the world. Random, you're free to interpret that information any way you want to. Talk to us about what Random is doing in the Southwest, in the small town of Smithy.
Smithy, you said?
Yeah, the small town of Smithy.
It's near the border, the Mexican border. And so I think at this time I'd kind of be I'm thinking that I have a boss who I don't know if they would be, maybe their base of operations would be in New Mexico. So it'd be like a New Mexico gang, and it'd be pretty large. And we would be running like contraband across the border. And so we would have a contact, like a proto-cartel type thing. I don't think cartels were existed back then, but like some sort of like Mexican underground that we have contacts with, that we're running contraband. And it's like, I think this is like a kind of like I'd say this could be like a newer endeavor for me, where we're trying to establish connections and like get business going. Provide American booze. I think booze would be big, because it's like much easier to kind of produce on our end, and then we would trade it for like, so we would send them booze, get other drugs or whatever else it is that we get, and then we would distribute what we get from Mexico up, and then send booze down. I think that would be the big project on my plate right now.
Go ahead and give me a quick persuasion check.
Shoo! Let's see. Is 8.
8. Now go ahead and roll a d4.
3.
Your contact in Mexico, you don't know his name, but when you do exchange goods, he has introduced you to a new good that he calls weed, and that the residents, the newer residents, the gobos and orcs and dwarfs and halflings and those that you interact with from time to time along the border, they call it spice weed. They've actually augmented it and changed it to their liking. And this has become a major conduit of both, well, economic advancement, as well as an understanding that other things are being interpretive and other things are being brought into the market. But this weed thing has been around for a while, but this new source that you have access to is coming to you in volumes that before you could never deal with. I would also say your current challenge that you have is paying off the local authorities. Your natural charismatic ways are a little bit heavy-handed and a little bit brutish. You're not quite as sophisticated as some of your competition may be. So that is a challenge you will have to deal with, or evolve it, or make it better, however you choose to handle it. So that brings us kind of current with Random Ward, his origin story, his understanding of the world. Jesse, talk to us about what it is to be a secret street performer, and what city would you like to be located in? I believe Chicago, New York, or something. A major city, correct?
A major city, but one that had I don't want to say smaller population, but a big city, but not a huge city. Because I am a nymph and can change shape a little bit, a water nymph, I'm able to more easily hide from authorities that would come after those with magic. So if I could get into, if we're starting in the Southwest, maybe a larger city in the Southwest there, but it's not maybe quite as populated as New York, where it's easier to escape detection for my semi-nefarious magic doings.
We'll say one of the things that's brought you to the West Coast is both the anonymity of yourself as well as the integration of newer residents into this very conservative and very much Christian-driven country of the United States. To you, they all run together. The idea of a country name isn't all that dissimilar from coming from Toril, and the idea of nation states, city states, the idea of kingdoms and organizations that controlled populations of people.
So yeah,
What?
that was kind of, since my background, my nature, probably I would have started in a larger city and then moved to a large city instead of a larger city.
Yeah, I would say San Diego, maybe.
San Diego sounds like a good place.
Okay. And going west and being more tolerated in the Southwest, more particular, San Diego has offered you lots of opportunities. Which opportunity?
There's enough people
Yeah.
for me to perform for and not necessarily have the same audience twice in a row. Yeah. What question was I answering? Sorry.
Which opportunity would you like to take advantage of? Would it be more your street performer side or another side that maybe we don't know about?
I think the street performer side is going to be the main opportunity because that is also how I observe the local society. I think the street performer side, outskirts of San Diego, I'm thinking 1920-ish San Diego, drawn to areas where street performers are maybe slightly more common, but not having joined an actors guild or anything like that, though I have outskirted actors guilds because I felt that would be my character felt that would be a natural progression for her to be able to get away with some of her more tricks and pranks that she likes to play on society.
And with that understanding of the world, your 10-year slide, we'll say, began in New York City.
Yes.
Coming from the plague-ridden, devastating world of Toril and making a new home as part of the massive exodus of that place. For you, you have no memory of how or where you left through. It's almost as if the magic involved somehow altered one's memory or purposefully created this lack of understanding, almost as a way to protect the pathway or the gateway that had brought everybody over into existence. Whether or not there's a greater sense of higher order or lower order that's controlling all this, the gateway to you, since you are a magic user, a wielder of the old energy of the weave, the magic as it leaks into this world that you now know it, is because the doorway is still open. That is your only connection with where you came from. And you hold on to that magic quite close to the chest, quite close to your heart, as that's where your memory is still rooted in the old world, and adapting and understanding this new world is very interesting. The idea of mechanicus and machines and manufacture and industry. It's almost as if this entire world that you're now in, it's as if they're as enamored as a dwarf would be with the idea of digging as deep as possible. The old highborn wizards' obsession with their magic. But here in this world, the obsession is industry, production, politics, wealth. All of these things have created certain nuances that you've learned to do well, or at least you think you've learned to do well. Go ahead and give me an insight check really quick.
All right. Let me find my... $18.
18.
Ooh, nice.
Something has piqued your interest about going to the Southwest. You've gone from New York to Chicago to Boston to Cleveland to Denver. You eventually made it to Albuquerque, and then that final trip by dirigible to San Diego. Once in San Diego, it's a very mixed, integrated reality here. There's also a very heavy military presence here, as a new front has opened up in the 10-year war known as World War I. This new front is now with the nation of Mexico, as they have thrown in their hat with the German-Austrian Union. German-Austrian Union is also making implications into South America, Africa, and some of these other continents or nation states that you're still getting to learn and to understand. We'll say that you're going to night school. You pick up on the fact that going to school at night affords you the opportunity to learn the histories better. So I'll say you've been doing that for a while. So go ahead and make yourself proficient in history. And anytime you need to do historical checks against the United States, you will have advantage for that.
All right.
Currently, what are you doing in San Diego? Where do you live, and how are you passing the time?
I'm going to live near the bay as I can.
Okay.
Since that would feel much more natural to me. So as near the water as I can. Said if I'm going to night school learning history, then when I get out of school, I would be doing blending in with the illusionists that don't have magic, a standard illusionist, more doing street performing, gathering trinkets from unsuspecting audience members on the street.
Give me
Nothing of any necessarily monetary values, things that I see they're fascinated with. Someone habitually checks their pocket watch. I'm going to find somebody who has a pocket watch and try and get that for myself to understand the fascination with that object. So just small trinkets, nothing.
Give me
You're
a
a kleptomaniac.
give me
a little bit.
Give me a performance check.
All right. I like performance checks. That is only going to be a 15.
Now give me a sleight of hand.
Not bad.
Give me a sleight of hand check.
I have. I rolled so poorly. Sleight of hand. That one's going to be 16.
16. Now give me a D12.
12.
12.
Yep.
Wow.
It was my special steampunk dice. Metal dice. I'm telling
Yeah. So one of your nighttime activities night school was closed. You found yourself wandering around the Bay Area of San Diego, the docks and the wards. Most of the apartments and buildings built are mostly simple stick, simple brick. There have been some changes in that approach, as you had recently been studying about something called the Great Earthquake of San Francisco, a major city up in Northern California where they suffered both a devastating fire and a devastating result due to the earthquake. This has caused things to begin to change, but in a good way, in the sense that most of the construction workers that you see now are either dwarven, gnomish, the occasional half-orc, terra firma human, even some of the humans of the greater reaches of the old world that you came from. This may lend to why it's so well integrated down here in San Diego. The amount of wealth here is both present but absent at the same time. You've discovered that terra firma children love magic. It's become a passion for you to entertain them, and you make a good side living off of doing it, and it affords you the opportunity to integrate with terra firma humans. One particular evening, when you were doing sleight of hand illusion, you inadvertently found yourself in possession of something called a passport. You later discover that it's a passport to an individual that goes by the name of Thomas Sheehan. And Thomas Sheehan seems to hail from a country called Peru. Passport itself is not familiar to you. It's an inadvertent thing that you've discovered. It must mean something. You recall it has something to do with proof that people are allowed to travel from country to country. In fact, you're still kind of waiting for yours. You've gone through the bureaucracy of paperwork. Interestingly enough, most of the bureaucracy is run by a mix of terra firma humans and goblinoid entities that seem to be quite adept at this busy, trivial kind of rote style of work, but doesn't necessarily make them very efficient. You find yourself
How detailed are the pictures in this passport of the person?
very detailed. He is square-jawed, bearded, mustache. He has a very simple haircut, eyes that are blue to light blue, very tan complexion. Seems to declare his residency in a city called Miami. And also, there are a series of stamps as if he has traveled to many different countries and many different cities.
And how tall is he?
He is 6'2", 195 pounds. And he described his light complexion in the passport. There is also a Unity stamp on it. And the Council of Unity is something that's European in nature and quite rare for anyone to be involved in. You're thinking about this as you're kind of reading and examining this passport, walking towards your favorite cafe down in the Mission Bay area of San Diego. Rolling by the endless convoy of soldiers, clunky things they call tanks, with the exception of the occasional drift of airplanes and air dirigibles, as the steady buildup along the southwestern border is been prosecuting itself quite vigorously. Kiki, let's talk about your origin story. What city you want to be in?
I would assume she would go to the most populous city at
So
the time.
Los Angeles.
No, it'd be New York.
Nationally, it would be New York, absolutely. So you
Yeah,
are
so I'd
in
be-
New York.
Yes.
How are you living your life? It's a weird place for you. It's different.
Right, very weird. So kind of like Great Gatsby-ish. Like, let's say she's kind of a sort of alchemist. so she can make money. And she's pretending to be an heiress of some place called China. And she's going to just live decadently and make friends with like the socialites, all the rich people, just talk to them and get a feel for what their purpose is and just kind of to get to know them basically.
Standing on the 30th floor of your penthouse balcony, it always feels strange looking up and starward. You know somewhere out there is your home, where you come from. Understanding the intent of your visit and understanding the purpose of your visit seem to have collided recently. 10 years ago, it seemed very simplistic. Understand the world called Earth, its governments, these people called humans or Earthlings, their nation states, their racism, their politicism, their religion, everything that makes them who they are from an Earth perspective. You've even stood in council before with the higher-ups prior to leaving. One of the outcomes is to determine whether or not to execute a particular order that would allow the Earth to start over and try again. Not everybody, from an interstellar perspective, is overly pleased with what the Earth has become. Most view it, see it as a failed experiment, something that was tried, gone wrong, and maybe we should try again. The community that you're part of doesn't feel that it's proper to give up so easily, so reticently, on something that can include well over 1 billion lives in a decision-making process. A recent test in the capacity and capability you find a little bit suspicious. Perhaps it's another organization working here, but the plague that strikes in 1919 through 1923 is, from an Earth perspective, compared to their recent history, quite destructive. Well over 150 million people perish from it. Millions remain ill from it, side effects of sorts. Something that nearly took about 20% of the world's population off within the last 10 years, on top of a global war that seems to be prosecuting itself across this planet. Once again, influencers and the maelstrom of chaos that you and yours agree does actually exist. Things were simple 10 years ago. After the plague and the arrival of these new visitors, these new residents, as they're called throughout the world, both their secret arrival and their rather quick adaptation makes you wonder from time to time. Just as 20% of the population of Earth collapses, suddenly an adaptable population appears. More suspicions as you stand on your penthouse suite, looking off and pondering the last 10 years that you've been in New York. What are some of the social things that you get involved with in New York?
I go to basically just social events, parties, mingle, go shopping with the new friends I have made. Very sort of, I think the fact that Kiki is in New York and she just makes all this money for herself, she befriends people who are in their own little world. She's not really getting like the meat of what she really wants to study from Earth, because like the super rich elite are in their own bubble, so they don't really care too much about what else is going outside of their realm. So she's just been doing very surface level things, but I think if she's been here for 10 years, she's starting to think, maybe I need to do something different, because all I'm getting from these people are very shallow, surface level concepts that are quite meaningless in the long run. And I think she's thinking of turning a new leaf and going somewhere else, finding out more about humanity outside of the elite, super crazy rich bubble.
This brings us to a turning point. Here in your 10th year of your visit, at some point you're expected to return. But the information you've gathered, the information that you've gleaned from these new arrivals, definitely offers up some challenges to your assumptions and assertions. This limited reality that you've existed in within and amongst the wealthy, you find yourself looking at the intrastate passport that you've recently acquired, as well as a national passport. You've also been able to use your power and influence to procure a unity passport. That was very expensive, somewhere in the neighbor of 50,000 US dollars to acquire this. But rumor has it that this is an organization that you suspect has some kind of involvement in this world. You pass your hand over a piece of glass that you're carrying, and you watch as the digital display comes up and kind of summarizing your report, your activities. You can feel the magic kind of leave your fingertips. You can watch the words as they appear. They get edited. They get stitched into this glass sheet that you use to interact with the small crystal that you keep in your pocket that stores your information and your memories and your understanding of this world. There's more confusion than anything. You hear a knock at the penthouse door as you're kind of lost in your thoughts.
I ask, who is it?
Newspaper, ma'am.
Ah, yes, of course. I open the door.
You open the door. There's a very small halfling, very interesting people. Long sideburns. They seem to have taken and adapted to the kind of beard mustache appearance of the time. Heavy beards and mustaches. Not more than 3 feet tall, almost boyish in slight look. Wearing a red messenger cap, all black suit. You could see the public pistol that they're allowed to carry kind of in the front of his belt. Ma'am, I've got your newspaper delivery and your letters. The receptionist downstairs said I should just bring them up to you since they didn't have time.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. You look fabulous, by the way.
Oh, uniform, thank you. And he kind of hands the whole package and parcel over to you. Go ahead and give me a perception check really quick.
Oh! Got a natural 20.
Ooh.
That's 3.
As the messenger clears his throat with his hand out.
High five.
He just kind of scowls at you and leaves. You close the door. Too late, you didn't tip him.
Oh, whoops.
And that word will spread. One thing about being rich is you tip big, because that community.
Oh, can I open the door and run after him?
You open up the door. You begin to chase him down the hallway. Give me a persuasion check.
Oh, great. 13 plus 3. 16.
16. He stops and turns. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. Is there a problem?
Oh, I still have no concept of money. I hand him $100 bill.
He nearly faints. His concept
Here,
of money is definitely.
This is what you meant, right?
Yes. Oh, thank you, ma'am. This, and he folds it up, puts it in his pocket, and he's like bowing at you, moving backwards, and kind of.
I will bow back. Yes, this is what you meant. Yes.
And he kind of disappears into the elevator. You can hear him excitedly talking to the, to the creature that runs the elevator, the construct, the drone that stands there. He's excitedly talking to this drone about this $100 bill that he just earned, pretty much half a year's wage in like an hour of work. And he's the elevator there is closed. He's like, I tell you, just give me $100. It's like his voice disappears as the elevator disappears. You find yourself drifting back into your penthouse. You pick up the bundle. Very first thing you notice is on the front page, a news story that's just broke that President Calvin Coolidge has been assassinated. Calimax, where are you? And what are you doing these days? What's your origin story?
Well, Calimax normally is a doctor. He goes around, he's been studying under his mentor, and his mentor was one of the founding people to find a treatment, not a cure, but a treatment to the plague that's been going on. Calimax feels like the government is stonewalling us against patents and government-funded research money and allocation. So Calimax decided to strike out on his own and reach out to less than the appropriate people to reach out to, and has currently been working very diligently with a very famous crime boss named Al Capone. He's been working with him directly as his doctor and otherworlder kind of in between for his organization and the people that come from the other side. He seems that Calimax not only has a good grasp on their world, but on his world as well. Not knowing his true origins and knowing that he's thinking that he's just a very well-kempt Latino man. He stands at about 6'1", wearing a steel or silver collared shirt with a brown vest and brown pants at all times, as well as carrying his doctor's bag and his license that always sits in his left pocket, as well as his hidden pistol inside of his vest and his knife that he just keeps in his bag.
Your understanding of the old world is unique to you. There was something about your transition from the old world into this new world that didn't prevent you from understanding its process, whether it's your dragon heritage and your innate integration with the magic of the old world. You know for a fact that the gate is still open. You've even developed contacts that have figured out how to go back and forth between the two spaces. This has afforded you the opportunity to do very unique levels of medical research, medical intuition, interpretation. Some would describe Al Capone more construct than terra firma, more earthling, less earthling and more construct. His brush with multiple assassinations and firefights and the physical toll on his body. You also have made it so that he is immune to disease. You've created augmentation to his physical stature to the point where plates of adamantanium steel, conduit kind of magical circuitry, infusions that you've gotten from some of the underground artificers has essentially given long life to Al Capone, and it's caused a certain change in his behavior. He's not a very intelligent or wise individual, his limited education, but his 10 years worth of exposure to you has very much changed his view of the world what it means to be a criminal, and what it means to be a powerful influencer. You're currently standing, I'm assuming you're in Chicago.
Yes, I live in the south side of Chicago.
You're currently standing in front of a very dilapidated apartment. Very large orc is in front and slightly aside to the door. He sees you approach. Doctor, we've been waiting for you. He's right inside. My understanding, it's the personal driver of the fella you work with, Mr. Capone.
I nod.
And the heavy-handed orc, big giant meat fists, kind of turn the doorknob, open up the door into a very simple, furnished apartment. 2 rooms, kitchen and a bedroom. The kitchen is more studio style, and they call these things bachelor pads, from your understanding. Although, being a 1,000-year-old dragon, you're still not even sure what the fuck a bachelor is.
A little older than 1,000, but yeah.
You walk over into the bedroom, and they're lying on the bed, surrounded by 2 other, a dwarf and a terra firma human. They kind of look up at you. The dwarf kind of nods. The 2 leave the room. Lying on the bed is a water genasi. She is exotic, to say the least. The first one you've seen since the crossover in 10 years. She's heavily wounded. She appears to have been shot multiple times. What do you do?
I look at her and I look her over and go, I think I need to put my gloves on for this. And he goes inside, he opens up his doctor's bag and takes out several items that he would use for surgery. These items have been magically imbued with the enchantments that he's been able to come back and forth with through the years, and allows him to have an easier time with other worlders' surgical needs.
Give me a medical
like
check. Yeah, give me a medical check really quick. Or a medicine check.
Medicine check.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to be a 25.
Now,
19.
yeah, now give me a D20.
An 8.
And give me sleight of hand with disadvantage.
No, it's not bad. 12.
Well, the hour that goes by is rough on you. This is one of the most difficult ones that you've done. At some point, you even mutter, where's a fucking cleric when I need one? Knowing that, for the most part, pantheons and religions are definitely kind of a joke here. Whether they exist or not, it's kind of drifted in the very back of your existence. But using your tools, using a steady hand, you manage to extract up to 13 bullets. Now give me a perception check with advantage.
With advantage, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. First one's a 17 plus 4, and the second one, let's just go with the 21.
Okay. The last bullet that you pull out that was near the sternum and partially embedded in the sternum area in her bone, you pull out. It's the only one that's more intact than the others. The density and makeup of a water genasi is kind of strange. You kind of equate it to someone always sweating with this kind of weird, kind of like liquid shine or sheen to their skin. That one bullet that you pull out, however, has an engraving on the bottom end of the bullet that's not compressed or distorted from being used. It is 2 intertwining daggers with a single eye in relief. And give me a history check.
So plus 4, that's 16.
It would seem that the Twisted Eye finds itself in Chicago, an organization that you've known that's existed in a very large community called Waterdeep, in an alternate reality. You're very much aware of who these people are and what they're capable of. This is disconcerting news. But you keep the bullet. You finish patching up the water genasi. The other two come in to see your good works. The door is held open for you. You step out. Begins to rain. It's that April weather that you've learned to hate living here. But it would seem over the 10 years, these spring seasons get wetter, get longer. It's almost as if the collision of these two realities is somehow changing things dramatically, both in the physical and in the magical world. You're walking home to your flat. You see a newspaper stand. Walk over to it. There on the headline, President Coolidge found murdered. And you read the first paragraph. Initial suspects include the Twisted Dagger. This organization, the Twisting Eye Dagger, the Twisted Eye, as you know it, is definitely mentioned in this article. For you, McCallan, we're going to be a little interpretive with you.
All right.
You're currently standing at the Dallas airport. Very small airport. The stanchion that is designed to hold the air dirigible is overhead. The massive blades and magical turbines that keep it afloat. The occasional large biplane. Or oddly enough, these new planes that you've been seeing more often than not now, they seem to have these fixed wings. They have a longer fuselage. You've even noticed that they tend to be able to carry more cargo. That's kind of got you distracted. But then you're looking at the message in your furbog hand, and it says, from the Council of Unity, please proceed to Albuquerque. Please meet us in the Cafe of the Stars Driven for a conversation. We are aware and we know of your capabilities. It's these things that we seek. What city are you from? What's the 10 years been like for you?
Callan is originally from Los Angeles. Being in that time period when a lot of westward expansion was happening and a lot of buildup. His family was located there because of the offset of people, and it kind of lended itself to the fact that it was a burgeoning city and things were happening on that. Being an investigator was something that was very intriguing because things started to happen, and being a furbog of kind of lower means, people would disappear and not be spoken of again, and the local authorities just straight up didn't care. So he made it his goal to try and figure out, where people are disappearing to and what he could do to help.
You've made a name for yourself nationally. You're one of the few, what they deem new residents in this nation. And you're still trying to understand what it means to be a part of a nation state. The world you came from, things were a little bit more simplistic. They were more geographically intertwined with your existence, as opposed to these huge empires, these huge populated areas that seem very overwhelming to you. The name you made for yourself is that when you were a bodyguard for General Pershing, you quite literally saved his life, which has set you on a course, a 10-year course of understanding how important both the ramifications of investigation, the awareness, the understanding of why things happen the way they happen and what you must do to maintain the control over these things. But this has set you on a 10-year course of both understanding not only what the military is, but you have insights into the military police. You've also been kind of a part of the process through independent work, establishing a community called the National Security Agency, another community known as the Secret Service. These are things that you've been called in on, give awareness, some insights on, mostly because they've become slightly more integrated than the political awareness would allow you to think it would be possible. The political schism that's been going on for 10 years would offer you different understanding of this nation. But you make a living and you make do. You understand the politics, you understand the different law enforcement agencies, and you've made your inroads, you've made your understandings with them. This drive, this determining drive, all coming from the idea of the inequity of those who simply have power and just don't care, or the inequity of their power drives them to make decisions that are neither balanced or fair in the understanding. Like most, you don't have a clear understanding of how you came to this new world, but you know you're here, you've adapted. One hand is the message, and the other hand is a rolled up newspaper with the announcement that President Coolidge has been found, assassinated, murdered, many suspects. Most suspicions are pointing towards an agency that was hired via the United States of Mexico and their recent involvement in the expansion of this great war. Something piques your interest. There's someone holding a sign, very short, stocky in build, very long beard. Seems to be a human of some sort with them as well. They're holding a sign with your name, McAllen, on it, standing next to an Edison automobile, one of the newer machines that you've seen recently, holding the sign with your name.
I approach him.
You approach. Oi! Hey, are you McAllen? We've been sent here to pick you up, mate.
How many furbolgs do you see wearing a fedora?
One. Oh, shit. That's sarcasm. I'm still new at this. Anyways, please. Take a seat. He holds the door open to the back door. The human gets the human gets in the passenger side. The dwarf gets in on the driver's side. It hovers just briefly. You watch as the gems brighten and glow, and there's a energy just kind of wraps around you, disapparating around you, and then you reappear in front of the Star Cafe. Here he opens the door, lets you out. There's a couple things you can infer from this. This car, these Edison cars, are expensive. Very few of them. So clearly there's urgency here. Go ahead and give me an insight check, please.
It's a 12.
12. Standing in front of the Star Cafe, it's mostly empty with the exception of a single individual sitting at a table on the inside. There's a single waitress, the cook. All the tables are empty. The lights are all on. It's evening as you landed in Dallas in the evening time. You hear this, you smell the ozone and the sound of behind you as the vehicle disappears yet again. You're in front of the Star Cafe. What would you like to do?
I'll walk in and approach the individual by themselves.
Oh, Mr. McAllen, it's good to see you. It's good to meet you.
As I'm walking in, I want to kind of take a gander of the environment and see if there might be anybody around as well.
As his voice drifts in your direction, go ahead and give me a perception check.
Natural 20.
Nice.
Whoa.
It's the lack of things. You don't know why, but you pick up on the fact that this is all an illusionary spell of some sort. You pass your hand through the table. You kind of realize the rote behavior of both the waitress and the cook, the very kind of like automaton-like nature of their appearance. You watch as the half-orc gentleman dressed in a very posh kind of attire, pinstripe suit, very neatly trimmed beard, green skin, kind of just very well kept, very clean. I see that you're as good as they say you are. Picked up on that. I assure you it's purely for safety reasons, Mr. McCallan, not malicious intent. Please, join me for a cup of coffee. I don't know what it is, but it tastes interesting.
I'll take a seat.
I see you have a local newspaper.
Yes, it's quite interesting news to be sure.
Yes, well, I work for a special organization. We're not really sure if this thing is something that was intended, pre-planned, or understood, as one might call it, well, opportunity. However, I have an agent waiting in San Diego. I would like for you to meet with them. I would like for you to lead a team to investigate this assassination. We have currently used a device to prevent the scene, well, from unfolding. Needless to say, what you read in the paper is merely a cover story. When you arrive there, it'll make sense to you.
And I'm assuming the compensation for such will be well thought out.
Well, compensation will be handled. I can assure you, we are also of the mind that if you'd not like to see this new world collapse into utter chaos, that is one form of compensation. Your skills and your recommendations come from interested parties. But you'll be paid a wage. Expenses compensated. All manner of devices and individuals will be at your beck and call. And he reaches into a small pouch. He pulls out a square plastic kind of device and he hands it to you. There is a kind of like bottom foamy plastic piece and a top plastic piece. There are a series of 5 very large crystalline numbers embedded into the device. Simply dial 4522 when you need me, and I will respond in kind. And he slides it over to you. Do not lose this. This is incredibly expensive.
I pocket it in my inside pocket of my jacket that's hidden. And I say, oh, sounds like we have quite an interesting case to solve. And
to say the least.
I will go look for your person in San Diego. Who or what shall I be looking for?
She is very slight in build. She is a bit of an heiress, and you will know her when you see her. She goes by the name of Kiki Lee. Well, good luck, Mr. McCallan. We'll see you soon, I hope. And he hands you a dossier of information, and you make your leave out of the Star Cafe. Kiki, you hate traveling second class. This new dirigible that flies from New York to Boston to Cleveland and then directly into San Diego, you find incredibly frustrating. However, your newly acquired Unity passport has brought certain people to your attention. The one thing that has you very perplexed is a simple folded up letter in an envelope that was handed to you by a very strange individual who came and went just as quickly as you could imagine. It's a document that says just a few words. We understand who you are. We understand why you're here. If you be so kind as to meet a friend of ours in San Diego, it would be much appreciated. He's a furbog who goes by the name McAllen.
So I have no clue who this is coming from.
None. The only thing that inspires your curiosity and your caution is the way they phrase they know who you are and what you are.
Right. And I think I'm kind of, like as I was saying before, being stuck in that rich bubble and just talking to the same people and not experiencing the full weight of humanity. I was like, oh, why not? Let's go to the other side of this country that is one part of Earth.
Getting out at the San Diego airport, it's dismal, it's raining, it's podunk, kind of on the fringe of reality. It's a military nightmare as well. The military is everywhere. The stanchion that your current dirigible is anchored to, there are some advantages of wealth. You're able to make your way in and out of this airport as quickly as you can. You find a taxi service that takes you to a cafe known as the Wooden Wheel Cafe. It's on the very outskirts of the main center of San Diego, more towards the direction that would take you closer to the Mexico border.
This is so quaint. Why haven't I been here before?
You find a seat. It's sticky to say the least. Got kind of a weird kind of coffee hash brown smell to it. You're still not sure what coffee and hash brown is. You know it's food and drink. You participate to maintain the illusion. But unfortunately, your kind does not have taste buds or olfactory, so smell and taste is not anything you're familiar with.
That's how I maintain my thin figure. Nothing tastes good.
As you sit there,
I just eat caviar.
As you sit there, you watch as a very tall furbog comes walking into the cafe, matching the description of this individual called McAllen. Kaldev, you've begun to realize that as you're examining this passport, there's something strange about it. It's been altered. Go ahead and give me a perception check yet again.
I probably, did I just find it tonight or have I had it in my possession?
We'll say you've pilfered it this evening.
Okay.
As
If I
part of
had
your
it longer, I would have
nighttime
practiced transforming
activities.
into this
Yeah.
person. All right. Perception? Fine. 9.
So you are quite attuned with the arcanic nature. Go ahead and give me an arcana check with disadvantage.
Oh no.
Okay,
do
Arcana with disadvantage. Does it help that I typically cast Read Minds when I'm charming an audience that I want something out of? Or mind? Let me find
This is an object. So I'd say because it's an
I
object.
detect thoughts if there was something that of the person I picked it up on, but I probably wouldn't have noticed if I was just pilfering. Disadvantage. I rolled 2 of the same, so it doesn't really matter. Let me get back to this dice. Excuse me there. 11.
11.
Bad with disadvantage.
As you stare at this, you begin to realize it's an illusionary object. It's been altered. It's been magically altered. And because your awareness can't quite control the nature of the magic, you're examining the passport, walking down this section of town, you stop in front of the Wooden Wheel Cafe on the very edge of town itself, and you watch as the passport merely vanishes out of your hand. You can still smell the arconic-like ozone kind of dissipate. As you step into the Wooden Wheel Cafe, kind of frustrated, you can
Did
see
it blink out or just fade, or I just kind of noticed it was gone
it just
from my hand?
faded as you were examining it.
Okay.
You're not sure if that was a protection spell, a precursor to it not being with the right owner. It's more
I'm
frustrating
gonna
than
start digging through my bag again to make sure it didn't like zoom back into my bag as I'm walking into the restaurant.
McAllen and
cafe.
Kiki. You watch as an individual that would be best described as Fae in nature, kind of rummaging
Very
through
short.
their bag. Are you illusionary at this point, or are you in your Fae form?
I will be in. I'll say as my street performer, I'll be in semi-humanoid form, but not to where I've had to change shape. Just where I'm not as blue looking. My hair's not quite as watery, but I can't really change the way I walk. So it does have a fluid motion, which is very non-human,
Okay.
even if I look like a human.
So Kiki and McAllen, you're sitting at a table. This individual comes walking into where you are. Calimax, you hold a dirigible ticket, first class, out of Chicago to San Diego. The conversation you had with Mr. Capone was very strange and very odd. He handed you $5,000 in a satchel. He handed you the dirigible ticket, a manila envelope and folder with a top secret brand on it. And he just looked at you across the table and says, I don't know. I just don't know, man. Don't know why they want me to give this to you. His metallic jaw kind of clicking and grinding against the rebuild that you did on his face. What? You gotta go, man. Sorry. You gotta go. They pulled some of my strings. It's just the way it's gotta be.
You gonna watch my people?
I watch them. Like I always
care.
do. Yeah.
I
Hey,
trust you.
I'm nervous. I'm spending a lot letting you go. I'm nervous about this. But
I'll come back. Don't worry.
you
You know
bet.
it.
You better. And then that whole conversation's playing out in your mind as you're flying over the Midwest. Hours later, the stanchions collected. You're in San Diego as instructed.
$5,000.
As instructed, you open up the dossier once in San Diego. It describes a location called the Wooden Wheel Cafe on the outskirts of town. You find the sign and the taxi cab that's waiting for you. The little goblin ushers you in quickly. I already know where you're going, sir. I've been told where to take you. And you quickly watch as the cab quickly takes off. These particular Fords are a little bit more on the high-end side. You know the history of these cars to a certain degree. They've fascinated. Your medical and your engineering knowledge kind of plays into the hands of both things because you're augmenting your surgical tools all the time. These Ford C classes are a little bit faster, a little bit more robust, a little bit roomier, a little bit more on the luxury side of cabs. About 30 minutes later, the wheels screech in front of the cafe. You watch as a very kind of oddly looking individual walks up the stairs, rummaging through a bag and stepping in to the cafe front door. You see two people take notice of them, all matching the photographs in your dossier. The photograph of McAllen, Kiki. Oddly enough, the photograph you have of Caldev marked and Unity stamps put on all three of them. And
Do I know what the Unity is?
your understanding of the Council of Unity is very simple and basic, but we'll see how much you have learned over the few years that you've been in Chicago recently and obviously working for Capone. Go ahead and give me a history check.
History is +4. Natural 20.
Oh,
Nice.
That's a 24.
24.
The third 20.
Through dealing with injured parties and understanding certain highly placed individuals within the political schisms that you follow yourself through, this party of unity, this organization of unity, the Unity Council, sometimes they are referred to, they seem to have very many different names, almost as if that's done on purpose. They are clearly a well-funded organization that has taken in on a very deep understanding of these newly arrived residents, including yourself. Your adaptable skill has led you up the hierarchy of understanding that this organization was formed roughly around the same time as the residents appeared, these new individuals. Whether or not they are a group that watches over the concerns related to their integration, or the understanding of where you've come from, or what's intended, there is a kind of concern that they will always be watching whether you really want them to or not. And the real insight to this is just how easily they pulled Capone's strings, a man that does not react to anybody but himself, a self-assured individual that is making themselves quite wealthy, and their power base is quite extreme. But at the same rate, perhaps it's these connections that have gotten him partially to where he is. This organization, Council of Unification, the Council of Unity, seems to be overseas and international in nature. But reading through the dossiers, watching Kiki and McAllen, watching Caldev, you then hear a screeching set of tires. You look behind you. Random, these are the worst deals that you hate, but your boss was clear. Someone has hired you specifically to pick up 4 individuals and take them to a very small community known as Stanton. From there to a very exclusive and reclusive lodge. Now, your understanding of this request is both monetary and influence. You're sitting in one of the new Edison trucks with the big high-bound wheels that it's just very similar to what the military uses. It's its armor plating, its overall structure that you rely on. The back of this Edison truck is festooned with many different electronic gadgets, magical gadgets, 5 chairs that are on kind of like these pinions or spindles that allow you to move back and forth and move quite freely within this truck. The message is quite clear: to pick up someone by the name of McAllen, Calimax, Kiki Lee, and Caldev, and bring them to the hunting lodge as soon as feasibly possible, but with minimal attraction as possible. You're to meet them inside the Wooden Wheel Cafe. As you come to a screech and park behind a taxi cab, you watch as somebody gets out, heads towards the cafe. Calimax, Kiki, McAllen, and Caldev, you are all now inside the Wooden Wheel Cafe. For you, Caldev, it's strange. These 2 people are staring at you, but it's even stranger as this individual, well, Calimax is kind of uniquely in appearance. Calimax, just quickly describe your physical condition for everybody in the cafe that's looking in your direction.
So, Calimax, for most people, just looks like a very large Latino man of a very dark complexion, but has steel braided hair. And because you are all associated with the other world, you know that throughout what you can see his skin, there are scales that kind of just fluctuate around his arms, his hands, under his eyes, behind his ears. They're not fluorescent or anything. They're just a solid steel or silver color. And it's very offshoot to what his dark complexion would be.
With this, Calimax is now inside the diner. Kaldev, you eventually take a seat by yourself. McKellen and Kiki, you're introduced to each other in a very slight way, nothing overtly formal, as you're not quite sure why each other are even here, what the intended purpose is. All four of you turn to watch, well, a very interesting individual come into the cafe. Random, give us a kind of more physical understanding of what you look like as a terra firma human.
I'm of average height. Don't quite make 6 foot, although he would have loved to. He says he's 5'11".
Don't we all?
But deep down, he knows that he's actually probably 5'10", or 5'9". Even.
I love it.
He wears a hat, and with a hat on, he looks kind of like it's like clean shaven on the side. But once he enters the store, he takes off his hat, and you see that it's like an undercut, and he has a longer hair on the top. He's dressed pretty spiffily. He does have like a tie and a vest with the sleeves rolled up, and it's pretty simple.
Are you packing?
100%, yes.
Okay. Calimax, Kiki, McKellen, and Kaldev, give me quick perception checks, please. Random, give me a deception check, please.
Shoo!
At 11.
10.
Okay.
Meet it.
Nat 4.
22.
Calimax.
17.
Oh, that's good too.
The others don't seem quite aware as you, Calimax, but you've been around gangsters. This motherfucker's an enforcer. He walks with a swagger. You could easily see the large, heavy pistol outline that's tucked into the backside of his belt as he turns to come into the space. As he comes into the space, all of you hear an audible clicking noise as the door is locked, quite audibly, quite loud. All of you turn in confusion. All the windows into the cafe dim into darkness. There's a slight rumbling sound as you feel the massive elevator that you're now in begin to submerge and go down below the ground level. You can feel it grind and churn as it...
Did we get any reaction to that?
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear it lock, I cast Mage Armor on myself.
Okay. For
Yeah.
I do. I try and make it subtle since I don't know these people.
give me a sleight of
around
hand.
me,
Let's
but
see how subtle you
don't
can
know
be.
I'm-
Yeah.
No one
I don't
knows
know if I'm
anybody.
sitting at a table, but I try and do my movements under the table to cast Mage Armor.
Can I hold an action?
Okay.
I'm just
Uh,
taking notes.
I'd like to
These
just
are
hold
skills.
a bonus action in case something aggressive happens.
Fair enough.
Got a
Calimax will take out a vial from his bag, open it up, and kind of floosh it around him. And it goes around to everybody in the room. I've cast aid on everyone.
Okay.
Ooh,
cast
I
AIDS
like
on everyone?
Calimax.
Aid,
It's-
not AIDS. You.
Oh, it's like we
okay.
all have a sexual disease now.
Why?
Kiki is a sexual disease.
What?
You're
just
totally
met.
So that means you guys have a extra 5 temporary hit points.
Awesome, thank you.
So with that,
guys,
the grinding
Do we
noise.
perceive that he did this to us?
I mean, it looks just like a silver dust that I threw in the air.
Oh.
When it gets close to you, when it gets close to your skin, it would just sit there like glitter.
Can I
Beautiful.
Arcana? If I see the dust and I see him throw dust, can I
Yeah,
do
give me Arcana.
either a perception or sleight of hand to see if it's
Well,
see
what was your
why
sleight of
he really
hand? For,
threw
what was
dust?
your sleight of hand for 14 for
for
mage
me trying
armor?
to cast Mage?
I would say that's probably what's your
on the
passive?
table.
Yeah, what's your passive perception, Calimax?
16.
16. You definitely picked
Oh.
up on Kaladev's like quick response to protecting herself. You saw the sheen kind of bubble around her briefly. You begin to realize that you're in the presence of another potential magic user. Kiki, the glass tablet that you carry in your purse begins to beep.
Oh, excuse me 1 second.
You guys watch.
I'll pick it
For
out.
those of you nearby, you watch as the individual that you've not quite formally met yet pulls out a transparent piece of glass out of her purse.
Excuse me.
And it's an incoming message. Signal is lost. Please proceed back to the surface to reestablish signal, and that's a series of dots. And you unfortunately recognize that you're definitely going underground at some indeterminate point. The connection usually with your penthouse is now in the process of being connected. Anything that happens from this point on, you will not be able to record. Give me an insight check.
Okay, but Kiki is very excited because she's never been in such risk before, so it's like, whoa, exciting. Insight, you said?
Yep.
Ooh. Okay.
I'm gonna take a seat.
At
Okay.
11.
Oh, hold.
Okay. It's almost as if possibly this is being done on purpose to prevent outside intrusion. Calimax and Kaladev, McKellen, do you have any arcane understanding, or are you more of the physical?
I have a little bit of Arcana.
Okay. Everybody go ahead and give me arcana checks. Kaladev and Calimax with advantage.
Arcana.
Ooh,
Ooh, mine's plus
19.
Okay.
18.
18.
Okay.
I got 18 as well.
I got another 22.
Okay.
On Arcana.
Really good at
I got
this.
22 as well.
So as a
Wow.
group,
Wow.
We're
the
all really
worst.
good.
yeah, as a group, the first thing you begin to notice as the grinding sound kind of continues, you can feel the movement downward. All of you equally notice that there are glyphs and wards placed at certain positions within the space. Most of these are for prevention of scrying or secretive arcane kind of like methods. As you kind of examine this space, so far no malicious activity other than the fact that for you, Calimax, you watch as expected. Random has his hand rested behind his back, easily able to pull out his pistol if required. This is not
But I look cool. I'm playing it cool.
There
You don't
is
look cool to me.
there's a tension here, but not necessarily towards each other as much as the space. Then suddenly, after about 5 minutes of going downward, it stops.
Could I take out one thing from my bag?
Mhm.
So I reach, you guys see me open my doctor's bag or the bag that I have next to me, and I reach in and I pull a small recording device, an analog recording device, and I just press the button and I put it in my pocket.
I would say, Kiki, you're very familiar with what Calimax pulls out. McKellen, you've seen those before. You know they're expensive and kind of rare to find. Caldev and Random, neither of you have ever seen it before, but it's quite interesting to see when Calimax pulls it out. All 5 of you hear another loud, audible click as the doors swing open. And as they swing open, a very tall dragonborn comes walking into the space. Hands behind his back, kind of wearing very much a solid black suit. Black jacket, black shirt, black tie, black pants, black belt. For those of you from the other side, you recognize him as a black and silver mixed dragonborn. He stands there. Yep.
Are the relations between dragon and dragonborn the exact same as in lore? Or
Things have
That's a
changed
question.
very dramatically. The survival of a species has a way of influencing its politics and its relationships quite significantly. The old hates and the old distrusts and the old pantheons of relationship have melted away when it comes to near extinction. Being in this new adaptable place after 10 years, the urge to respond in the old ways for both of you is very brief. Eyes meet just for a moment, and there's just merely a smile and the perfect English of someone who understands terra firma English. All of you know that as part of your common language understanding. However, a lot of the other languages are a little bit more challenging, as well as the lineage languages of those from the other side. The Dragonborn kind of looks about. Well, I see all of you have arrived. If you would kindly follow me, please. He kind of turns on his heels and begins to walk through the double doors.
I get up and I kind of go to ease and put my hands in my pocket and I follow him.
Okay. You guys watch as Random begins to follow him.
I want to look into the room and try and get a feel of what type of room it is.
Other than the space that you're standing in, give me a perception check.
That is a 17.
The Dragonborn and Random seem to disappear into an unnaturally dark hallway. It's impenetrable. You cannot see beyond the double doors.
I'll get up and
I
walk.
shrug and I
slowly.
say, if he wanted to hurt us, he would have done it already. We're cornered. Let's follow him. And I very jubilantly follow along. I whistle.
There's nothing like watching a
just learned
flapper
how to
walk into a
whistle.
dark hallway.
I just learned how to whistle, so I'm really excited because honestly, in real life, I don't know how to whistle. So in this game, by God, I know how to whistle.
I
So
very
I'm gonna whistle and
begrudgingly follow her and just kind of shake my head a little bit.
Kaldov, you quickly follow Random. Kiki, you follow.
Not so quickly.
No, you're
Slowly.
quite hesitantly then. Calimax, you're the last one in the room as the rest kind of disappear into this inky space.
He takes out a notebook that nobody else has seen. And he writes, closes it, puts it back in his pocket, and walks through.
As all of you stand in this darkened space, you cannot see each other. You cannot see yourselves. You can merely hear the Dragonborn's voice. I assure you, these are our standard precautionary procedures. Just be patient. One moment, please. There's a series of buzzing noises. At first, there's a warm and then a cold sensation. And then, click. The darkness fades away. You're standing in a very simple stone and brickway hallway that's kind of almost like a reinforced kind of tunnel that's been purposely built and designed through the current technology of the age. You look down a very long extension of this hallway to where it seems to kind of open up into a very well-lit space. For all of you, with the exception of Kiki, what's coming out of there smells amazing. Kiki, give me an insight check.
I take out a cigarette and then
11 plus 3,
look it up.
14.
Okay. Random, you light up one of your cigarettes, kind of puffing on it. The rest of you can smell the food. Kiki, you recognize the look of excitement and exhilaration on some of their faces. This is a cue to you that means something smells good nearby.
I will mimic that
Okay.
and pretend that I look very excited as well.
Now,
Can we tell what sort of food, what type, if it's being cooked already? Can we smell anything specific about it?
Is it savory or sweet? Is it like
Are they
Give me-
grilling like an underground barbecue?
Yeah. Does it smell like short ribs grilling, or does it smell like a pie? Like a
Korean
boysenberry
barbecue for sure,
pie?
bruh. Korean barbecue.
Ooh, really?
Give me a perception check. Let's see how much detail you can glean from this.
I'm only mimicking you guys.
Yeah.
We'll have to do
Calimax is stone-faced and he's staring at random cigarette.
How
Okay.
much is the cigarette ruining the smell for me?
it.
Pretty predominantly. I mean, the cloud of smoke
Yeah,
boiling around
cigarettes
your
are-
face. Yeah.
Can I go into that
Good.
cloud and you guys see on the tips of his index and thumb, you see that silver again, and he kind of just squeezes the front of his cigarette and goes, "It's gonna kill you one day."
Caldo, what did you get for perception?
16.
Yeah, you're kind of partially distracted by Calimax and Random having that exchange,
I
but
would be actually quite fascinated with the cigarette, probably, and totally distracted. at that
strangely
point.
enough, to you, it smells like some of your favorite foods.
Hmm. Probably go, something soup. I can't think of a name of a soup. My mind just went blank.
The Dragonborn,
Clam chowder.
the brat,
No.
Tomato soup.
No, yeah, it's gonna be like a vegetable stew.
the Dragonborn turns to look at Random. No smoking,
I-
please.
I throw the butt and then I say, do I wait, okay, do I know Calimax?
This is your first time ever
I know
meeting
you-
him.
He's
My
like a
inf-
doctor,
my
but
inf- I mean, I'm a doctor and I've worked in the underground. You might have heard my name before, but I haven't
Ooh,
said it yet.
you are a criminal. You are a member of the criminal syndicate. Go ahead and give me a history check.
Were you using a cigarette with a filter or just paper?
I'm pretty sure it's just paper.
I'm pretty sure it was
just
a blunt.
paper.
Filters haven't even been created yet for cigarettes, actually.
Nat
They
19.
might have been alternate history.
Maybe.
No, alternate history. You never know.
Uh,
Like Cruella de Vil type, where they
Yeah.
have like the
Well, they
Come
haven't even
on.
done. Well, I mean, they wouldn't even have done the research that cigarettes kill people yet. Very
Yeah,
few
but
people would know that.
That's true. We don't know that.
end. It has nothing to do with the health and safety, so you can smoke the entire thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More older than a
Only doctors would really know of the medical implications of it.
Would
Yeah,
they?
Only
So I,
some doctors, and it's probably just theory too.
I mean, smoking pipe tobacco and other things back in the old lands, I mean, from where some of you are from, not that unusual.
Pretty
for you-
predominant.
What'd you get,
Not older.
Random, what'd you roll?
Nat 19.
Nat 19.
So I take out the cigarette, flick it towards the Dragonborn, and I say, thank you, doctor. And I just put a hand, a really passive aggressive hand on his shoulder and tap it.
Fair enough. Calimax, you pick up on the side eye from the other Dragonborn. He just kind of winks at you. And please, if all of you would come into the main chamber where she will be arriving shortly to fill you in on why you are here.
Yeah, I walk inside.
Okay.
I'm pondering
Max,
the pieces
can
of
I
the cigarette
follow?
as I walk past it.
Calimax kind of does this motion, like towards his face, but he's actually checking if his recorder is still going.
Give me a perception check.
Nat 20.
It is not.
What? That's your second one, dude.
Your recorder is
I need
not
twice.
going. It has failed and it has stopped running.
Is there a way I could fix it?
Give me a sleight of hand check with disadvantage.
Yeah.
Oh.
Natural 1.
You
No
quite
more recorder
He's
ever.
taking-
Like the polar
You
opposite.
take it out, you just start going and work on it.
you quite literally
Good night.
put all 5 of the pieces that it's now in your pocket and just shake your head. You can
Can I
feel the
nudge
parts.
Calimax?
Yeah, he's
Be
standing right.
like, I tried. Those don't work here. Sorry.
Kind of just looks at you and goes, really? That's
Yeah.
quite interesting. I did not know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
As
And
one
he kind of
button.
huffs. He huffs, and his breath comes out green.
You said no
You're
smoking.
weird.
So, Random, you head
I'll
into the
decide to not
chamber.
pick up the cigarette.
Yeah.
And I'll head into the chamber after
Mm-hmm.
random.
Okay. Everybody one by one making your way into this chamber. Everybody give me perception checks really quick. See if you pick up on something that happens.
Uh-oh, that's not very good. I got 5.
14.
And
10.
22.
Okay.
Whoa,
Easy.
dang, okay.
Boy. Oh boy, I only got a 20. But yeah,
Wow.
For McKellen and
good
Calimax,
perception.
as you cross through the hallway into this chamber, there's the barest feeling of like an electric kind of ozone feeling that you pass through. It's kind of cold. You could feel you could feel your skin temperature briefly shift as the two of you recognize that you've moved into a space that's not a real space and it's not a fake space. It's a space in between spaces, almost as if it's designed purposely for these kind of meetings and these kind of
Like
areas
an
of.
extra dimensional space.
I would say, McKellen, you pick up more on that, but Calimax, you're leaning towards that as well.
We might have a problem, DM.
You're in between spaces.
Oh,
With me entering this space.
Describe for us what you think that problem might be.
As Calimax kind of steps in and he realizes, he's looks down at his bag and looks up at the space. And he's just staring at it.
There's a very
And he looks-
there's a very lilty laughter from the other side of the chamber. This very stunning individual. She definitely looks terra firma. She's European in nature, as best as you could tell. Oddly enough, Random, you recognize her physical appearance. She's definitely German. She kind of just laughs. Please, if all of you would come and take a seat. Calimax, I assure you, we will not blow up. Your bag is quite
He
safe here. It is
nods and
not-
just walks in.
It is not one of those spaces, but I appreciate your caution. It's duly noted.
could you describe in detail what she looks like?
She has very long, brown, blondish hair. She's got green eyes, rather fair complexion. She's not overtly tall, not overtly short, very simple in appearance. She's neither beautiful or ugly. There's something about her that is both common and out of the ordinary at the same place. She is
She
wearing...
looks like a basic NPC.
Well, if you want to go that route, sure. But she too is wearing a black suit, black jacket, black tie, black shirt, black pants, black shoes, and
It's
she is
just the Men in
standing.
Black. Fuck.
Yes,
She-
it is Men in Black. That's what I was thinking.
This is the Men in Black.
Out
The-
to get me, guys! Oh no!
They're out to get all of
I didn't,
them.
Oh,
I didn't even think
no.
about Kiki. That's pretty funny, actually.
I'm an alien.
She-
As long as you're registered.
As Kiki reveals
Get your
everything
ID.
to us in a
Men in
bluster.
Black.
This
she
is straight up the Men in
Nightmare.
Black.
Oh, where would I recognize her from?
you kind of recognize her physical overall appearance, right? She would probably hail from the area of Hamburg in her physical appearance.
Oh, like she just looks like a German.
Yeah, she definitely looks German. Well, I know for some of you, you've traveled far. I do apologize for the secrecy, but it's required. Please, each of you, take a seat, and we will discuss what needs to be done and why you have, come to the council's realization and who you are. Mistress Kiki, if you would be so kind as to see to it that your tablet is turned off, I would greatly appreciate that.
Okay.
Gotta reach into your bag and turn it off. Even though you know it's disconnected, it couldn't maintain the signal to begin with.
Yeah.
Can't be in airplane mode, has to be off.
I know.
This
Extra
is playing all of
precaution.
Mr. Calimax, I do apologize for your recorder, but I did not intend for you to break it into many pieces. I would hope you will allow me to replace it for you before you leave.
He just nods.
You come highly recommended, and I suspect both your need and our need may be equal, if this conversation determines such a thing. Macallan, your reputation in saving both Pershing and what you have done over the last, well, many years brings you to us as well. Caldove, my superiors tell me that where you come from, well, may be pertinent in this conversation and the story I have to tell.
My
But,
apartment on the bay?
well, yes, that is one of the places you come from, dear. I am speaking more of the other place that you come from. Random, a heavy hand and a diligent watch is needed. For the foreseeable future, Random, you have come to us through, well, he goes by the name of Charlie. You would have known him as Unktath. He was the half-ogre friend of yours from the front. He works for our organization. He dropped your name, and I have been told that you are someone that we could rely on for, well, let's just say, keeping these four alive under all circumstances. I wish I could offer you more than that, but I'm afraid the information I have to share is limited in scope, limited in my own understanding as to how to proceed. But know this, the very nature of what we face here is quite both terrifying, balance shifting, and well, could undo everything that we spent these last 10 years rebuilding and building anew. Now,
At the mention of the name Unktoth, for those with a keen eye, notice a fond emotion pass for a second over Random's face, and he just nods.
Now, let us begin at the beginning. How many of you are aware of the Unity Council?
Kiki.
I
Calimax
cast
puts up his-
detect thoughts as she says that to see if I can glean anything. Not to the level where
At
I
what
have to-
at what
you
level?
have to check just surface level thoughts.
Okay. At what level? What level spell is that?
It's a level 2. But I just
And-
mean like there's different how deep I go into the mind. I'm just doing general surface level thoughts, and she's talking about it, and I don't have to dig further.
Yeah, the arcane nature of how your spell comes into effect just fizzles. Doesn't even form.
Alright.
You guys also notice that the glitter that was placed on your body by Calimax fades.
Do I still have my mage armor? Can I still detect it?
You do not feel the arcane connection with your mage armor.
Can I try to recall what I know about the Unity Council on my end?
From your understanding, go ahead and give me a history check.
It's 16.
They're definitely your biggest market for smuggling people. You're aware of them simply because you've seen the Unity passports, and usually it involves a very high fee and smuggling individuals in and out of locations in either a secret fashion or as discreet a fashion as possible. It's actually one of your more preferred gigs because it's very rarely ever violent. It's usually quite reliable, but not nearly as lucrative as drugs. Drugs and guns, there's just too much money in it to ignore it. Especially now with the war expanding here in the Southwest. Well, everybody wants one and everybody wants to get high. Seems to be the moniker of the region. For you, Calimax, this doesn't necessarily surprise you, as you kind of note. She
Do I
kind
still
of,
have the bullet?
it's with you in your bag, yeah, in your satchel.
Can I ask her? I know I have a Unity passport, but I still want to ask her. I tell, kind lady, all that you know about this Unity Council.
I personally do not know much. I am merely the arm attached to the body. I have been asked to assemble a team, take some investigation in regards to a particular occurrence, decipher, make notes, and deliver the findings that we accumulate. No one really knows for sure who or what they are. They came about, we believe, some 10 years ago during the great migration of some of your people. I know random. Neither of us necessarily understand where that space is or where it came from, but there are those that I serve and those that I cater to that have some awareness of the other side. Here, Silverback is from there, serves us quite diligently. Silverback, if you kindly excuse us from the conversation. He nods and kind of goes back out into the main hallway. The shimmer is noticeable as he walks through it. Now, for those of you here of the magical nature, I do apologize for the precaution. You will not be able to use your magics in this space. This is one of the reasons why your bag is quite safe here, Calimax. Currently, you will not be able to retrieve anything from it. I do apologize for that. But as long as you're in this space, it is safe to keep on your person. Your correct assumption would be to have blown us all to, how do they say it here? To hell, I believe. Had that not been the case, but I do appreciate your caution. Please, everybody. She points to a series of couches, armchairs, tables stacked with books and documents and dossiers. And then she walks over to a very large, flat metal table.
As she starts walking away, I'm going to walk up with her on my way to a seat. And I mean, I'll kind of have to look up at her a little bit, but try and discreetly whisper, "Why do your travel books disappear?"
Ooh.
I don't.
She pauses at that. What do you mean, disappear?
Travel books with stamps. They
The passports?
vanish. Yes, the passports.
My
They-
dear, they should not vanish at all. They are not magical in nature. They are merely just passports.
Hmm. And you don't know what they are?
They are passports. They tell us who can and can come in through authorized locations under the Unity's understanding. But I'm not sure I've ever heard of them disappearing before, dear.
And I tell, can I try and determine if she's telling the truth?
Insight
I
checker.
can't
Yeah.
detect thoughts, but
Yeah, you can go ahead and do an insight check.
12.
During
Yeah.
this,
She seems quite genuine in her response to you.
this
Is-
time, I
I'm
want to
gonna
go
give
and
her
look
a
at the
look
documents
and
on the
listen.
table.
Okay, McCallan, go ahead and give me investigation as you start to look at the table of documents there. Kiki, Calimax, and Random, what are the three of you doing?
I'm
Can I
thinking. Oh, sorry, go for it.
Oh, okay, thank you. Can I unfurl that letter I got that was like, we know who you are and what you're doing here? And can I show this to her and be like, excuse me, miss, I'm sorry, I did not get your name.
I did not offer my name.
Well, could you please tell us? I don't know what to address you by.
Ma'am or mistress will do just nicely.
Okay, Miss Ma'am. Do you know who sent me this letter?
Yes, dear, I'm aware of your letter. Hiding in plain sight is difficult for you, yes?
Oh.
Your use of the language, your body movement, your lack of decorum, and your inability to read body language pretty much gave you away long before you stepped off your ship.
No.
Please, dear, have a seat.
I'm sorry, Miss Ma'am, you did not answer my question. Who wrote this letter to me?
I believe your question's been answered, dear. McKellen, what'd you get for investigation?
Oh, it has not.
23.
There's a series of informative documents, top secret documents, and many other kind of sheaths of paper. The common theme that you can range from these documents, it has something to do with the assassination of the president.
Oh, shit.
Perfect. Just what I was interested in.
Yikes.
Now,
I'm thinking, now, is it weird that there is a Hun in America right now, in the midst of the Great War?
Kiki
that
just
there's a
looks at
German
you and
here.
goes, "What? Is she a honey? What do you mean?"
Like a German.
Mm.
Like, is that like? So I'm asking, like, in random's mind, is that weird?
Give me an insight check.
Weirder than a cafe that turned into an elevator.
There's a lot of weird magic stuff that random doesn't know. He's like, whatever.
I'm still trying to figure
If
out
we
where
are
the,
at
where
war
the smell
with
of
them,
soup is coming from.
Probably
Inside, I
round them
got
out.
16.
16. The war still goes on, but there are many different parties involved. With Mexico's involvement, there's also the fact that China and Japan have gotten involved. The war front along India is quite brutal and harsh, but these alliances shift and change from year to year in a very strange way. There's even been rumors with the new political sentiment of the country of perhaps switching sides, perhaps fighting
What?
alongside Germany may be more fruitful, more prudent. And these are both rumor and talk that you have with either ex-military friends or people within your circle of understanding of how things are changing. And a lot of this has changed because of the new arrivals and the way they've influenced them. But there are many new empires coming to existence in the Middle East. There's even rumors of a empire coming into existence somewhere deep in Africa. Quite a exotic, and always thought, from your perspective, pre-arrival, to be very chaotic and dangerous, and a very kind of, it's where all the empires go to take advantage of peoples and scrape their resources and keep them subdued and oppressed and make their empires wealthy. But since the arrival, there have been rumors of organizations making their way down there and very much changing that narrative. So, yes, it is strange. The German seems to be here. But then again, you're standing alongside Dragonborn, a furbog, a strange individual that kind of walks as if she's made of water. Underground elevator in a little Fey-dimensional pocket of existence. There's a lot to consider here. If it wasn't for the fact that your mind was nearly shattered during the Second Verdun, this would be surprising to you. But you've been on the edge of madness and terror before. One of the few things you remember seeing before the collapse of the front line, that creature still haunts you to this day. This interlude kind of triggering your thought. You swear it had 10, 12 tentacles. It consumed human corpses at a rate unlike anything you've ever seen. And this would have been around the time of the arrival, but I don't remember ever seeing any creatures named in that. But then again, you were fever wounded with a bullet wound. Who knows? Maybe it was just a dream, a nightmare. Who knows if it's even real anymore? It's been 10 years since you remember seeing that. But the shock just kind of triggers your mental understanding of a particular time of your life, which is both fractured and understood at times. But, getting loaded from time to time always helps put those images to bed, put those nightmares to sleep that have been haunting you now for well over a decade. no one should ever see that much humanity get destroyed so efficiently. It's hard. But you refocus. Her voice continues. Now, if you would all kindly take a seat, let us begin at the beginning. We know that when the others came here, they arrived. It undid things that potentially were meant to be done. Now, the conversation of time and its relativity, I leave to our prize professor. Well, he's not here, so it does not matter. He is somewhere in Germany doing his thing that he does. I will state this. The arrival has shifted reality. It has exposed this place to other planes and other universes of existence. The chaotic maelstrom that makes up the balance of life is neither good nor evil. You can banter the wits, you can banter the words, all that you want. Just simply is not a case for consideration. This chaotic stew that we are in has reappeared in many different minor ways, and we follow them. We are sent to the field, we are sent to investigate, and we determine whether or not it's related to the shift or not. The shift is the change in the perception of time and the change in our perception of reality. And you watch as her hands kind of form over the metal table. And you watch as a glowing light just appears. Bubble of existence. Pulsing. And then it expands till it fills up the entirety of this chamber that you're currently sitting in. And you watch as a perfectly rendered three-dimensional illusion comes into full size around you, almost as if you're standing within the space. We have a problem. We do not believe that what has happened should have happened. Certain people of import were given a device that if their behavior or something were to happen to them that deviated from what we believed was supposed to happen to them, they are essentially frozen in time. And as all of you stare and look at this, there is 4 heavily leathered goblins. They're refined leathers, almost as if they're made out of a suit of some sort. The high-end stitching, for you, McAllen, is quite easy to pick up on. They're bulletproof. You recognize what they're wearing, and there's very few people that know how to manufacture and make these items. Your passive is high enough to take that in. Lying on the ground is the physicality form of President Coolidge. His arm is extended up like this as a 4th figure hovers over him, pistol in each hand, taking shots at Coolidge. You can see the bullets have frozen. There's at least 2 coming from the right and 2 coming from the left. For you, Random, your passive is high enough. This is someone that knows weapons. This is someone that knows guns, and they seem to be quite efficient at it. It seems to be in a kind of very ornate kind of library that this is occurring in. You see shelves and shelves of books. You can see bodyguards of all manner of integrated descent making their way towards the figure but till they freeze. Around the neck of Coolidge is a very small silver-like emblem that's pulsing. So, as you can see, we have a problem. We have reported that he is dead and assassinated as a cover story for now. He is quite literally, along with all the suspects and witnesses, frozen in time.
What
My
happens if you find out and you bring him back? You've announced he's dead.
Well, he's not dead, dear. He is frozen.
You've announced he's dead.
Yes, well, I don't
Can you
really handle the...
unannounce it?
Well, I don't really handle the intelligence wing of things. I am merely the purveyor of finding folks that can help us gather information. Trust me, we have had our conversations with the Thought Keepers. They are emotional sometimes. That knee-jerk reaction was to assume that the assassination was intended. However, because the ward triggered, we know that it was not something that was meant to happen. Therefore, the ward has frozen time. But it's limited on how long. It's already been a day. The maximum amount of time that the frozen ward can maintain its place and hold this pocket of time is 3 days. A day has already gone by in acquiring all of you, getting you here, and, well, spending a great deal of wealth gathering up as much pertinent information as we can now. He is in the presidential residence of the lodge outside of a community called Stanton. This is a place where people who hold such offices often reside during their vacation. It's what they do. They travel here, they hunt, they relax, they go back to the White House and continue on with their politic. Personally, I don't really give a shit. But I am well educated in understanding what it means when these wards go off. We have created a deviation, a secondary time that should not come into existence. And we know this to be true because through the announcement of the newspaper, things have already shifted. The war with Mexico heats up. The war with India heats up. The amount of violence that seems to be prosecuted quite suddenly and with vigor has many in the council concerned. Whether through orchestration, circumstance, or just plain dumb fucking luck, something has happened that should not have happened. As all of you take in this full dimensional image that you're able to walk in amongst, everybody give me investigation checks, please.
6.
Okay.
I'd also like to try my best to not look super impressed by the light show and everything, and just keep a chill demeanor.
Give me deception.
6.
13.
We can all tell you're very impressed.
13 for McCallum. Calimax, what'd you get?
19.
19. Kiki?
16.
16 for Caldev.
16.
Okay. As a group, not great. But for Calimax, there's a couple things that you pick up on. The bullets are going to kill the president. You immediately examine the trajectory that they're going in. 2 for each lung. You will die without immediate intervention of someone of your caliber. And even then, it's iffy at best because death in this place is hard. The gods don't work here. Bringing people back barely works here. Death is far more permanent here than you recall it being in the old world, in the old place that you came from. To die here, well, it's brutal, and it's often difficult, if not impossible, to bring people back. And staring at these bullets' trajectories, that is already one problem that you've picked up on. Kiki, as you wander around the illusion of the representation that you can see, this library is expensive, and it's large. It serves a single purpose as you examine many titles of books. There are titles here that don't make sense. Some are related to things that have never happened. Some are related to things that have happened. Some are related to things that may happen. As you examine both future and past in these titles, it's very strange. McCallum, what'd you get?
I got 13.
13. Caldev, Pivoting away from where Kiki is looking at the books, you drift over to where the ward is hanging from Coolidge's neck, his hand up in reflective defense. He's wearing a ring that looks very strange to you. Very arcane, intricately designed ring. It is a ring designed to put a shield around his body. He is also wearing a bracelet with an insignia on it of a large hammer, an anvil, and a crossed set of engineering tools. You recognize that that's an insignia of an order known as the Masonic Lodge. You pick up on that. That's
The
interesting.
Masons.
Can I tell if the ring activated the shield from this illusion, or can I just see that that's what it was meant to do?
The ring definitely... Give me an Arcana check. We'll see how much you can piece together, considering this is an illusional representation.
Can I help her?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Give her advantage. Since you are
And
quite
guidance.
proficient. Yeah, or guidance, either one.
I don't know what guidance does.
I'll just give you advantage. It's probably easier. than-
Okay, just advantage. We're at a 18.
18. The minute the guns went off, the shield was activated as a reaction to protecting the president. The minute the bullets left the gun, the ward activated. It's almost as if his death was already predetermined by the effect of the ward. Looking at this, all the magic does is slow it down to where microseconds take forever to conclude. You just sit there for like a few minutes and you watch as the bullet just barely moves forward slightly. There's a limit to this magic, but this is powerful magic. This is the
Can I call
kind
it type of shield? Sorry.
from the shield perspective, you would consider the enchantment to be roughly of the highest order.
So, like, it would have potentially saved him from the damage, but I can't tell for sure since I don't know bullets.
Correct.
So these bullets are somehow enchanted to get through this shield,
Possibly.
no matter what.
Can I study the bullets
Give
and
me
the gun?
Give me investigation again.
Damn it.
Can I
Wanna
get
look-
advantage because I have a proficiency in it?
I'm okay with that.
17.
17. The gun is not familiar to you. It's definitely a heavy pistol of some sort, but it's strange. There's like a metal cartridge that goes into the handle of the gun that you're not familiar with. Most of the heavy pistols that you've dealt with are bullets that you have to put into like a carriage that spins on your heavy pistol. This one doesn't seem to suffer from that problem. The other thing too is there's a slight kind of glow to the bullets. There is a series of Cyrillic writings on the handle of the heavy pistol that you pick up on. You also notice that there are no holsters or carrying devices of any kind related to the goblin that's currently fighting. It's almost as if these pistols are an extension of his physical form.
Wait. Whoa.
And I, as random, checks this out. I want to look at the bullet, the cartridge of the bullet as it's extended, the bullet. I want to actually look at it. And I want to determine if it's the exact same type of bullet that I pulled out of the water genasi a few days ago.
Go ahead and give me investigation, please.
Can I guide myself?
Sure.
I'll take out my little notebook where I drew the symbol of the twisted eye,
Okay.
and that's gonna be how I guide myself. Okay. You said investigation?
Mm-hmm.
17.
It's definitely there. You move from bullet to bullet to bullet, which is interesting because you're watching the look on Random's face, and he seems very centered, focused on these weapons. You're focused on the bullets. McKellen, go ahead and give me a perception check. As you're watching Kiki examine the library, you're watching Kaldov examine the magical components. Random and Calimax are examining both the bullets and the gun.
25.
25. Now give me insight with advantage.
Let's see here. It's 13.
13. Standing here, there's at least two things that trouble you about this scene and watching this play out. Number one, who in their right mind hires an assassination squad to be this fucking obvious? Doesn't make any sense to you. Secondly, as you're watching Random and Calimax examine the bullets and the guns, why use such obvious means and measure such a public display? You know that assassination squads exist. You've seen some of the more, well, the ones that send mind flayers have always troubled you. Those are the ones that have always concerned you. There's nothing like examining a person who's quite literally had their brain melted, and there's no physical description of it from the outside of the body until you use the skull saw to take off the top of the head to see the gruesome remains on the interior of a skull. Now, if you're going to kill someone of importance, why so public? Why so obvious?
Can I use my night class intelligence here and see if there's any recent policies or anything that's would have striked as out of character?
Give me a history check.
And do I get advantage since it's US?
It is, so with advantage.
Even though it's recent.
I'll guide you.
What does guidance give? Just
It
advantage?
gives you an extra D4
Extra D4.
on your roll, so you get advantage and a D4.
Woohoo! Hard to find a D4.
Yeah, she's a 3.5 player, so sometimes, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry. 17.
17?
Good thing I had advantage.
Policy is like anything else in the world. It's still a new thing to you. There are maybe two major events that have transpired, or one that's about to transpire. There is a somewhat famous individual who is about to fly a plane, a newfangled type of plane, that has been festooned with both magical abilities and mechanicus abilities. It's been described as something utilizing jet propulsion. And he goes by the name of Lindbergh.
Oh,
That's one event that's coming up in May that is believed to be a major event to kind of prove to the world that technology and progression is here. The other major event that had recently happened is there was a sit-down between the cabinets of both the President of Mexico and the President of the United States to discuss a way out of the current situation. The first two that come to mind. Other than that, you're not really sure what else may have transpired recently.
So I have to ask her two questions.
Who-
After
who-
Kaldov,
Who are you asking?
the German lady.
Okay.
With all the statements that we've all brought up or have been going on about, two things. First of all, it seems like the Twisted Eye are making random attacks on people in high power.
Is they random? Or is the act of randomness random?
Who is the Twisted Eye?
The Twisted Eye are a dangerous assassin organization from the old world.
And you
Would
are
I know
familiar
the
with
Twisted Eye?
assassins?
Random, that's all brand new news to you.
What did you say, Kaldov?
Said, and you know said assassins?
I know how to fix their problem. Their not problems.
Their
I know
tar-
how to fix their victims.
Fix the problems they cause.
Yes, I know how to fix their victims. As I pull out the bullet from earlier, from the one that I pulled out from the water genasi, and I say, "This specifically is their bullets." And with close examination, you can tell that this bullet is the same exact bullets and shell casings that they used to try to assassinate Coolidge.
You can fix their victims. So if we speed time back up and allow this to happen, you can fix this.
Maybe
That seems stupid, though.
if
Why would you
I
have your symbol on the bullets?
it's a statement.
Mm.
To have your symbol on the bullets, to say that you've been marked by the Twisted Eye, is a statement in itself. The Twisted Eye's organization is secretive in itself. The only thing that you know is their calling card, and that's only if you've examined the bodies. And these bullets, or before the weapons that they used, all had this engraving.
And so this secret organization likes to show off about their kills.
Max,
Two people that fix the victims.
a question.
I'm a doctor.
What's the goal of this twisted eye?
They're assassins. There is no
What's-
perceived goal. It's
So
just
are they paid? Like, do they assassinate people who
I don't know enough about the organization. I'm not gonna.
you don't know their goal, you just know that they're assassins.
Do you have a business card? I might need their services, but so next time. Don't worry about it.
I look at you and I go, here's the bullet. There's their calling card.
How
If
do
you were
you know this if you don't know them?
I
A question. You said that the bullet had writing on it, right?
Caldev, you could tell that Calimax is quite obviously not going too deep into his knowledge.
Right, but I can still ask
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
and
I
see
tried to
what they'll
read-
reveal.
Mm-hmm.
The bullet says with comprehend languages. You said it was written in another language.
Your passive perception is picking up on Calimax's body language. There's a strange kind of, not malicious, but just like he's being helpful, but he doesn't necessarily want to reveal how helpful.
I'm going to try and persuade with my questions and my very good persuasive abilities.
Okay.
Calimax.
Kiki, sorry, go ahead.
Can I read what? Didn't you say there was writing on the bullets?
the gun.
Was it like symbology or like were they like phrases?
It's
We are the twisted eye.
yeah, from what you can see, it's two twisted daggers around an eye, just kind of emblazoned into the bullet, just like a
Okay.
stamp, like a relief.
Okay, so it's
It's not
like
something
a
that you could
symbol.
read, yeah.
It's
got it.
it's the symbol that I was showing off on the
Yeah.
bullet.
Got it.
Okay. I'll
did
make a
you
note
want-
of the symbol.
What did you want to say to me, Caldo?
I'm trying to think of a persuasive way to ask my question so I can use my persuasion skill against your. What I passive, I forget what persuasion goes against.
Calimax will say, the reason that I know this is because a patient of mine recently came in with on the brink of death with the bullets of this organization in their body, and I have a curious mind about finding out who tries to kill the people that I try to fix.
So they don't just make the bullets. It's actually they add them on after or both.
Yeah, maybe both. I don't know about the construction. This is a very secretive organization.
Right, but how do you know it's an organization, not just someone who makes bullets and stamps their bullets?
Because
Somebody
there's
has
a
to-
I'm
symbol.
trying to persuade, but I don't have the persuasion skills my
So-
character does.
I would say here's the challenge that you're always going to have with player interplay, right? Now, you all have your own backgrounds. You all have your own evolution of your own background. I mean, you may, in your mind, already understand a way that you're beginning to evolve your character. the way we've all been introduced to each other is surface, right? It's once again we find ourselves at beginnings of different points, and somehow you've all ended up here. But yet, different people, different thoughts, different minds, different backgrounds. Always going to be kind of like a natural kind of hesitancy. So I would say, for the purposes of interplay, if you guys choose to be deceptive, or you choose to be insightful, or you choose to be persuasive with each other, I'm more than happy that you guys roll and counter roll with each other. Therefore, it helps you with your own ability to dialogue between each other. I like that idea. I think it works well. That way, if Keldev, you decide you want to try a persuasion roll, and let's say Calimax wants to try a deception roll, the two of you could determine through just the sheer roll and the adding of your modifiers, determines how much you know or can exchange with each other, or how persuasive you think you really are. And if you want to use the honor system to determine that, I'm fine with that too. One of the challenges you have with either PvP-centric approaches or interplayer-centric approaches, I will be the referee that's guiding you, but I like the idea that you're your own creative source for trying to either get, gleam, hide, or do the basic things it takes sometimes to prevent people from learning, or people who want to try to learn more.
Hey, you want to roll against each other? Because I'm not as persuasive as my character is.
Sure. Go ahead.
24.
Natural 1.
Whoa, you tell me everything.
So, Calimax, you're free to interpret what that means to you based on the line of questioning that she's offering you.
I asked amazing questions.
Calimax says,
Keep in mind, you utterly failed.
yeah, I'm quite aware.
But my questions have all been related on how you would know about this organization without knowing the people. So to give the direction
Yeah,
of
and
what
I've
all
been
of my
nothing but
questions-
honest. I've told
Right.
you everything I know. You know, I'm telling you, the reason I know it's an organization is because I ask other people. I ask the people who are my contacts, the people who I've worked with for long periods of time, and they have given me insights to who they are.
And I would
your
say for
colleagues potentially.
yeah, so I would say
like it's a known in the doctor community, which is so far removed from my character that it.
I would say the one piece of gleaning information you get is the way he describes people that he's encountered. Well, they don't sound like up and up people, right? It doesn't sound like he necessarily knows these things because he's completely insulated from the criminal world. He's probably dealt on either side of the equation before.
All right.
Now-
Well, that's
Miss
all
Ma'am.
happening, and I'm questioning you, interrogating you practically.
I mean, he's given the information that you need to know. He has. He's not going to give up. Like even utterly failing, he's not going to give up like his contacts and who they are.
He's not going
why-
to give up the personal deep secrets.
Yeah, and I would say you would definitely glean from that interaction that he is aware of the criminal underground.
All right.
Talk to Miss Ma'am, the German lady.
Yes, Kiki, what can I do for you?
Oh, can you tell us exactly why we're here?
Well, I would say this has been a predetermined reality as well. I see that Random has already drawn his own conclusions in regards to the weaponry. Calimax has probably already determined that President Coolidge will die in 2 days. I would also recognize that Kaldov, you have seen the wards and the enchantments that are in conflict here. McAllen, you have obviously stated the nature of the sloppiness and quite clearly the idea why such a public display of something that could be done so easily in secret. Now, all of this was gleaned by all of you in less than an hour. It took some of our better representations of the thought keepers almost a day to come up with what you've just come up with. So, you are here because you have been tested and you have passed. Now, the trick is to safely get you to the actual crime scene, to get you there in such a way as to make sure that no one knows you are there, and that, well, you will have to wear disguises, because no one could know that the Unification Council is involved in this conversation. Because quite frankly, if we're ever to get out that the head of the council is currently lying on the floor, looking upward at certain death, the consequences would be quite dire. And that's where we're going to finish tonight.
What?
Wait,
Wait,
Kelly
what?
Coolidge is the.
He's the head of the Unity Council, and now she wants to drop that?
All right, kids, how was your first session, our prelude session? So the way I did it this way was to kind of give you guys meat and juices and creativity for your organic creation. From this point on, I do nothing more than step in as a referee. From this point on, you're now in a sandbox. You're in an open world that is being evolved from this situation. How your character behaves, how your character evolves, how your character grows, you're free to evolve that backstory. You're free to now begin to really organically understand what it means to be a street performer from San Diego, a secret agent or an investigator, or a penthouse rich girl who's not really a girl now, is she? But some kind of xenophobic earthling hater who's trying to not be an earthling hater. A steel dragon from a very ancient world. And, well, a thug who seems to have a reputation that he wasn't even aware of. So this is your organic garden that you're now in, that you're going to grow out of. So if you find something that you think could be incorporated into your character, we'll work it out together. If you find magics that you want to create on your own through study and book, we'll work it out together. We're basically building our world as we go. I have created a framework. I've created characters. I've created a theme. I've created an arc. I have lots of little arcs going in different directions. But I've taken the chess pieces and put you right there in the middle. Everybody comfortable with that? If you need more guidance from me, you're always free to just ask for guidance. That's perfectly fine.
So, I had 20 gold pieces. What does that turn into for money?
Absolutely worthless.
Awesome.
Yeah, I remember gold plummeted.
Yeah, I know. But I feel like I would have exchanged that at some point.
Use it for component costs.
Like, I don't use magic like that. So my magic is a lot different. I don't use the same type of components, and my components don't disappear
So for you,
like other people.
for you, Teresa, start thinking.
Those much you need.
For you, Teresa, start thinking about how technology shapes your real life and how you kind of perceive an advanced civilization with technology magic and what that would mean, like the ability to tap into electrical circuits or the ability to see through things or the ability to, manage and impact and shape and alter things. And we can start kind of formulating what your magic might look like. For all of you with your backstories, I've merely planted the seed. That's all I've done. You can now deviate from it, alter it, change it, add to it. You want to create your own syndicates that you're aware of. You want to create your own guilds and organizations that you're aware of. You want to create things that you feel may gain advantage or even disadvantage. If you are traumatized by a past memory that makes it difficult for you to deal with things, if you are traumatized by the idea of wiping out the entire population of the Earth, if you don't find enough information to bring back to the Stellar Council, that could be problematic as well. How who and what kind of inroads have you made within the different secret organizations, McAllen, that could possibly help you find out what you need to find out? And Calimax, you're just too fucking old for this nonsense. You just want to save the guy's ass and go back to the luxury that is your life.
I mean, Calimax's whole goal is that he's finding a cure for the plague.
Mhm.
That is his whole research goal as a doctor. He just went the other way.
Yeah. Sometimes money follows where dictates show you. So any more questions for me tonight in regards to this kickoff point? Now, knowing that starting next Wednesday, we will start at 7 and go till 10. So make sure your guys' calendars can handle that. If I have more than 2 people missing from a session, we just don't have it. We wait till they come back. If we have 1 person missing, I make it an option. We either play the regular campaign or we play a one-shot. Either or, I'm perfectly happy with. I don't want any of you to feel like you're forced to have to play. This is your TV time. This is your downtime. This is your fun game. Be silly, be serious. Convince a 1,500-year-old steel dragon to tell me about his Al Capone secrets. Or Kiki being the first creature that has a tablet. Or, McAllen's going to be that kind of person that can read a scene without any problem. Randoms, smoking, drinking, carousing, drug binges, smuggling, drug sales,
I'm gonna get him to quit all his addicting habits. I'm gonna fix him.
New goal.
I'm gonna fix you.
The other thing
No
you
more like one person.
the other thing you should have picked up on by now is the time shift, the time slide. Time is very relevant to this campaign. It is fractured. It's altered. There are certain players within this reality that understand what this means. So food for thought. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. If you want to know more about us, see all the abouts down below. Our creative family is down below. We basically play every night of the week with the exception of an alternate Thursday schedule. And I don't think we play on Twitch on Saturdays. I do have 2 games on Saturdays, but currently they are not Twitch games. If they become them, I'll let you know. Other than that, as I always say, please, everybody, stay safe. Try to be kind. Most important thing, play a game. It's fun. You can do it. Good night, everybody.